All right, good evening. This is the February 5th, I should say, almost got us a little ahead of the game there, 2020. This is the Cottage Grove City Council meeting, which I'm calling to order. And our first order of business is the Pledge of Allegiance, so if you'd please rise. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, will the clerk please do the roll?
Councilmember Mills.
Here.
Councilmember Dennis.
Here.
Councilmember Thiede.
Here.
Councilmember Olson.
Here.
Mayor Bailey.
Here. All right, next is open forum. This is the opportunity for anybody that wants to speak on something that is not on tonight's agenda is welcome to do so at this time. We did have a sign-up sheet out in the entryway, but no one did sign up. So for the sake of making sure somebody didn't get missed, is there anybody that wants to speak on open forum that has something they want to speak about that's not on the agenda? All right, seeing none, we'll go ahead and close open forum. We'll move to number 5, which is adoption of our agenda.
Motion to adopt the agenda.
All right, I have a motion by Councilmember Dennis and seconded by Councilmember Thiede. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. 6 is presentations. We have 3 separate events tonight. This is pretty cool. The first one is the swearing-in ceremony for police officers Dominic Balamares. Oh my goodness, you're going to get me on that one. Where is? Out there yet? Oh, waving out there? Okay. And Ben Dietner. There he is. He's out there too. All right. So our Director of Public Safety, Pete Kerner, I'll let you start us off.
All right. We'll have the officers kind of walk up and get by the flag, and then as they're coming up,
You want to come on?
sure. I'm going to
Counsel?
just do a brief introduction while you guys are getting up there. I apologize in advance because I think you're going to have me up here numerous times tonight, so I'll roll through this pretty quick. But Cottage Grove Public Safety, we do have a tradition of recognizing new officers at the City Council meeting following their successful completion of field training and prior to completing probation. This is a major accomplishment, and we are excited to celebrate tonight. Years ago, it was when I was a new officer, Captain Rizzo, we just went in the city administrator's office and quick did that, and they're like, no, get out in the squad. So this is pretty cool that we take the opportunity to really recognize them. First, I want to kind of start with what they've kind of gone through recently. Each officer completes a 2-week Cottage Grove Academy prior to beginning field training. That's on top of already all their schooling and the skills that they go through too. So it includes Minnesota Post learning objectives. It includes firearms training, use of force. This academy also includes scenario-based training, evidence room procedures, taser, de-escalation. We also put them with the investigators, so as a new officer, they already can kind of understand that. And more recent, we started having them doing some ride-alongs too, that they're not being evaluated, so they actually get to know the officers and get a little more comfortable. So they have 4 ride-alongs as well. Something new that we started a few years ago too is they get a special presentation by Detective Vandervoort and Detective Landkammer, and it's about wellness and welfare and taking care of yourself. And we also invite the families because it affects all of us. So it's really cool that they've started that initiative. So after they go to FTO, which is 4 extensive phases, and then finally they go on to solo patrol. So a lot goes on. So I'd like to introduce both of our new officers, and then City Administrator Levitt will do administer the oath, and then we'll have them get their badges pinned. So introductions, and I always pronounce Officer Ben Dietner. Did I get it that time? I apologize. From day one, I've always pronounced it wrong. So, but he was hired back March 25th of 2019 and completed his field training July 13th of 2019. So he's already coming up on his 1 year. So we're glad we finally got you up in front here. So grew up in Welch, Minnesota. So I consider you almost a local. So that's cool. Graduated high school from Hastings. Received a Bachelor of Science in Aviation from Minnesota State University. Usually we call them pilots, not police officers, right? So change it. So then he did receive his Associate of Science of Law Enforcement from Inver Hills Community College. Prior to starting law enforcement, he worked as a laborer and project manager for a roofing siding company. Worked as a CSO for Mankato Public Safety, part-time officer for Cleveland, Minnesota, and part-time officer for Waterville. And those three departments you're all doing at the same time, correct? So stayed busy. This is kind of the highlight though too, is I love to see that you guys already have a good work-life balance. You listed a lot of good hobbies: hunting, fishing, firearms, woodworking, skiing, trail riding. I like that you told us it was horses and not like motorcycle or dirt bikes and stuff. So cooking, playing guitar, and you obviously you even said working. You love doing that, so that's awesome. In a moment, we're going to have your father, Brad, will pin your badge. Next, we have Officer Dominic Belmares. Close. So, hired October 14th, 2019, and just recently completed his field training on December 27th. Grew up in Maplewood, graduated from North St. Paul High School. I think we have at least 3 other North St. Paul High School grads, so that's awesome. During high school, Dominic participated in the Air Force Junior ROTC program, graduate of Century and Hennepin Technical College, attaining an associate's degree in law enforcement, served as a reserve police officer for North St. Paul, community service officer for Coon Rapids, reserve officer for the Minnesota State Fair, played an active role in the Ramsey County Sheriff's Explorer program, and was an advisor while at Carver County. Most recently, we did steal you away from Carver County, so you had 3 years as a deputy there, so super excited you had brought your experiences over to Cottage Grove. So I really like the one thing you brought up. Dominic became interested in law enforcement through the Explorer program and has been determined to serve, educate, and mentor the next generations of law enforcement. We have some advisor spots all the time, so we'll be taking advantage of that. Dominic has one brother who currently serves in the U.S. Army. Proud of his dog. Enjoys spending time with his family, working on his house that he owns, or at least still paying a mortgage on, right? So, yep. And spending time at his family's cabin. Tonight, Dominic's mother, Claire, will be pinning his badge. So prior to turning over to Jennifer, I do just have a couple things. Both of you have begun a career in law enforcement, and we keep hearing what a difficult time it is for law enforcement. I think it's a challenging time, but it's a really good time. You guys are getting into the field at a good time. The technology, the different tools you have, the training that's afforded to you. Cottage Grove, we provide a lot. The community supports us. We have this great new facility that we moved into in 2012. We have the Hero Training Center next door, so I'm really jealous of the training when I see what the new officers get versus when I started. So I think Craig Woolery, one of my mentors, he's former chief, he always had a nice little introduction. I can't mimic it or copy it, but it was just always that reminder that when you put on that badge, it represents a lot more. And it's so true. You're representing not only our police department, you're representing our profession throughout the country, and you're representing the city of Cottage Grove. I'm proud of this community. I'll hold you to those high standards. So do us well. Our past officers, represent them well, and our future ones. So happy to have you. So thank you, and I'll turn it over to Jennifer.
Well, gentlemen, tonight is a big night because you have the opportunity to take your oath in front of your friends, your family, your peers that are here to support you, and the community that you will be serving. So if you would please raise your right hand and repeat after me. I state your name.
I, Ben Diner,
Do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and of the state of Minnesota,
and of the state of Minnesota,
and faithfully discharge the duties
and faithfully discharge the duties
of the position of police officer
of the position of police officer
for the city of Cottage Grove
for the city of Cottage Grove
in the county of Washington,
in the county of Washington,
in the state of Minnesota,
in the state of Minnesota,
to the best of my judgment and ability,
to the best of my judgment and ability,
so help me God.
so help me God.
Congratulations. And now if we can have the members of the family that we're going to be pinning the badges to come forth, we can get the wonderful badges pinned on here this evening.
Come on, you gotta give him a hug or. Congratulations. Thank you. Stay in here for Sergeant Hensler, and then we'll get some pictures afterwards. So, where's? Okay. All right. Next. All right, first I just want to kind of give you an overview of the process. In the spring of 2019, Sergeant Frank had went on leave, and at the Public Safety Department, we knew how important it was for us to have frontline supervision. So we did start a process, not knowing what the timeline was going to be for a temporary sergeant, especially when we got into our busy summer months. We really wanted a sergeant on the street. So we did follow our standard promotional process. Start with a letter of interest, a selection panel, and follow up with a management assessment. Officer Justin Hensler, he was at the school at the time, SRO. He was selected as a temporary sergeant. So we got to tease him for many months about the Velcro and everything. But in December of 2019, when Sergeant Frank medically retired, Sergeant Justin Hensler was selected to be sergeant. We are giving you credit for the time served as temporary sergeant, so thank you. So his probationary period is scheduled completion of June 30th of 2020, this summer. I'm really proud to introduce Justin Hensler as a new sergeant. I wrote you a couple references when I knew you back in high school when you're first getting involved in school, so it's an honor to have you up here, known you a long time. So, grew up in Cottage Grove, graduated from Park High School, attended Minnesota State University, Mankato, bachelor's degree in law enforcement and a minor in psychology. And he was a police officer in the city of Winnebago and Faribault County for 2 years. Then came to Cottage Grove. He's been a patrol officer for 6 years. Really listed a lot of stuff here, Justin, but I know. He is one of our department TASER instructors from 2016 on, department field training officer, involved as a department ATV instructor, Washington County Mobile Field Force member, squad leader, school resource officer 2018 to more recently. He's also been involved in mentor for Century College and Century College, the Northeast Metro Tech 916, mentor at Rasmussen College, and like I said, became temporary sergeant July of 2019. Again, here's kind of the cool thing is you have a life outside of law enforcement. So enjoy golfing. You didn't say what your handicap was, but fishing, hunting, archery, muzzle loader, bowling, hanging out with family and friends, and working on never-ending home improvement projects. So congratulations, Justin. You've done a lot to prepare yourself for this position. I truly believe sergeant is, I don't want the other sergeants to get a big head, but it's one of the toughest positions. You're that frontline supervisor, a very important role. We count on you to be out there. You're taking calls with them, but you also have to step back, and that's kind of tough sometimes to step back and do that. So, again, congratulations tonight. We're going to have your father, who's on our reserves, Sergeant Hensler, Tony Hensler, will come up and pin him out, but I'll turn it over to Jennifer. So.
Well, this is exciting because we're also taking your oath, as I stated to the others, in front of your friends, your families, your peers in the community that you're going to serve. And this is also exciting that we get to promote from within. So this is an exciting evening to take this as a sergeant's oath. So if you'll please raise your right hand and repeat after me. I state your name.
I, Justin Hensler,
Do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and of the state of Minnesota,
and of the state of Minnesota,
and faithfully discharge the duties
and faithfully discharge the duties
of the position of police sergeant
of the position of police sergeant
for the city of Cottage Grove
for the city of Cottage Grove
in the county of Washington
in the county of Washington
and the state of Minnesota
and state of Minnesota
to the best of my judgment and ability.
to the best of my judgment and ability.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations. Now we can have the badge pinning, and I'll take your sheet here. Thank you.
Did Chris, did you get some pictures of the group? You got some?
You want us around?
Well, yeah, let's tighten it up a little.
We're happy to move into the shadows if you'd like.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you.
See how easy that was, Travis?
I don't know why I
Yeah. We'll meet up. We're going to do Afton Apple and then we can thank you. Guys get some pictures and stuff. So. Might as well stay Afton. Yeah.
So as the room is clearing a little bit with all the excitement of all the police officers getting their swearing in this evening, we'll wait a few minutes here, and then our next item on the agenda is accepting a donation from Afton Apple.
Fire Chief Rendanius will lead it off.
Perfect.
Hi, guys.
Director. Oh, look who we have joining us out here. A few special guests this evening. The public hasn't seen this yet, but they will shortly.
Okay.
All right, Rick, welcome.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. Thank you for having us. We have a kind of a presentation of our own as well. This will be for all of public safety, and it's a donation from Afton Apple Orchard in Denmark Township. The Public Safety Division was approached by the owners of Afton Apple Orchard asking to partner on another fundraiser, October 27 of 2019. Money raised would be donated to the Cottage Grove Public Safety Board. A meeting was held with Afton Apple in which they expressed their desire to honor public service personnel again in 2019 because the response was so well received in the previous 3 years. They had public safety personnel from Cottage Grove and Washington County Sheriff's Department at their site over the weekend to meet with people and answer any questions that they may have. Sunday, October 27th from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. was Cottage Grove Public Safety Day at Afton Apple. They are donating $3 from every admission to the corn maze to the Cottage Grove Public Safety Board. We had a fire truck and a squad car at the event, staffed with firefighters and reserve officers. Gunner and his partner, Sergeant Torning, were in attendance from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. that day as well. Monies donated in past years have gone towards the purchase of Sparky and McGruff costumes and the police reserve officers' equipment and thermal imaging cameras for the fire department. At the end of the fall season, the staff from Afton Apple asked to attend a council meeting and present the donation to the Cottage Grove Public Safety Board. Tonight we request the council recognize Afton Apple for their continued support for the Public Safety Board and the Cottage Grove Public Safety Division and accept the donation of an amount of $1,846.50. This donation will be earmarked for EMS items. However, we are aware that the board has the discretion over the funds. So tonight we'd like to have members of Afton Apple step up and say a few words and present a donation to the Public Safety Board. Sure.
Oh, cool. Hi, I'm Sarah with Afton Apple Orchard. Also here tonight is my mom, Cindy Femling, and my youngest one, Mason. We've been here the past few years, so this year I wanted to give you some backstory about our farm's latest milestone and a few things about our journey over the past 30 years. Growing up, my dad always wanted to be a farmer. He had many skills, including carpentry, so he started a cabinet making business. Although he was a successful cabinet maker, he wanted more variety. Back in 1989, he stumbled upon a small 3-line classified ad for a 117-acre apple orchard. They learned that this orchard was one of 3 orchards originally planted in 1964 as part of a corporation. The corporation went bankrupt, so one of the original investors purchased it and to try to run it for a couple of years, but that wasn't successful. After a little research about farming, he finally talked my mom into at least going to check it out. She wasn't thrilled about it, but she went along anyway. The cities were growing rapidly, and she liked the idea of raising us kids in the country. Upon arriving, they found that it was basically a rundown piece of land with overgrown trees, well-used equipment, and a maintenance nightmare. I'm not sure who else would say, "Looks great, consider it sold," but they decided to embark on this new adventure. They had little knowledge about farming or running a pick-your-own apple orchard, but with lots of determination and grit, they dove right in and committed to making this dream a reality. One of the first projects was to replace the rugged old tire swing and build a small playground so us kids had something to do all day while other jobs were in the works. The long list of projects just continued on from there. Little by little, we have been making changes. We renovated equipment, planted many more varieties of apples, added several other kinds of crops, created an annual apple festival, and even added a corn maze. Since 1989, we have expanded the farm to almost 300 acres, now becoming the largest pick-your-own orchard in the state of Minnesota. Over the years, we've noticed that many family traditions have been pushed to the wayside. Therefore, we work extra hard to not focus only on growing nice crops, but also providing a memorable experience to keep family traditions going. It's surprising how often we are asked why we continue to farm. Having a unique business, the laws and regulations for agritainment farms are stricter each year. There are floods of new housing developments popping up closer to us all the time, being in the heart of the St. Croix Valley. The farmland we use would be much more valuable, split off into several developments. Many people would jump at an opportunity like that, like many family farms have chosen to sell in recent years. We see the farm's value differently. Instead, we still choose to do whatever it takes to be here for days like this when we can give back to our community. Knowing we could possibly make a difference in someone's life makes it absolutely worth the uphill climb. We have learned a lot since starting this journey. First and foremost is that no matter what we do to grow great crops, Mother Nature always has the final say. The other thing we've learned to embrace is that change is constant. We are always brainstorming, planning, and creating ideas to make our farm unique and make sure we have something to offer for everyone. Just like the best apple pie and apple cider are made with many varieties of apples, we know that everyone has different tastes, all are welcomed, and one size does not fit all. Now fast forward 30 years. We have hay rides, pick your own strawberries, apples, pumpkins, and raspberries, a huge playground with activities you won't find anywhere else, a jump pad, and a cow train. We also modified a combine to become a playground and made a climbing mountain out of hundreds of tires. We have special event weekends with activities like cider pressing demonstrations, a magician, music, touch a tractor, core classic car show, and most recently, a sunflower extravaganza. It's hard to compete with tablets and TV screens these days, so in our agritainment business, we challenge ourselves to be as creative as possible with any changes that we make to our farm. We have learned that there are many different reasons people come out to visit, whether it be picking apples with grandparents, hand-feeding farm animals, or simply taking a break from the hustle and bustle of their busy schedules to take a stroll around the orchard. Our 2019 Corn Maze theme celebrated harvesting memories for 30 years, with miles of paths with the shape of a barn, tractor, and an apple tree. Throughout the maze were 24 stations with trivia about what has changed over the past 30 years. Customers learned that in 1989, the price of a gallon of gas was 97 cents, the Little Mermaid movie debuted, and the World Wide Web was invented. As a small business, we see the value of helping others and the importance of community support. We never take for granted that we are where we are today because of loyal customers that choose to support local and continue to grow with us. We know that everyone can make a difference and take as many opportunities as we can to give back to our community. We have a public safety weekend, donate to local food shelves, get involved with school fundraisers, and volunteer while being the host site for motocross champion Ryan Dungy's St. Jude Children's Research Hospital fundraiser. This year, we chose again to donate a portion of corn maze admission sales to support local first responders and a local school. This past year has been by far the most challenging for us internally, as well as rainy and cold on prime weekends. Although we had a less than ideal year, we still have some very loyal customers come out to the farm. Thank you, Cottage Grove Public Safety, for being flexible and rescheduling due to torrential rain on the original weekend. We are donating $3 from each paid adult corn maze admission from Saturday, October 6th and Sunday, October 27th to support public safety. Half of the donation supports community engagement for Washington County Sheriff's Office, and the other half supports new CPR equipment for Cottage Grove Public Safety. Although $3 may sound like much, it's a great example of how all of us working together can make a big difference. With the generous support of our loyal customers and amazing employees, we are honored to donate $1,846.50 this year. In the past 4 years of hosting fundraisers to support Cottage Grove Public Safety, we have been able to donate almost $10,500. Thank you for choosing to support local.
Right up the front.
Yeah, come on up here. He was watching Sparky the whole time, by the way. We were having some fun watching that up here, actually. Hi, you. Well, yeah, you do that. I'm gonna. We'll do the picture, and then I have a few comments I want to make. All right. So I just wanted to mention, on behalf of myself and I know the council and frankly all the citizens of Cottage Grove, I just want to thank, Afton Apple for the generous donation for this particular item that you've done. You said like 10,000, which is amazing. But some people might not realize that they do a lot for our community. They are very active in the Cottage Grove Strawberry Festival. They bring animals, food, the event, strawberries, which is great. To continue our tradition here in the community. So they have been a very important and integral part of this community. And then the other thing I did want to mention as you talk about traditions, and you're correct, there are so many family traditions out there. Going to Afton Apple has been a long time for my family, and it was pretty cool because my youngest son a few years ago, as you recall, proposed to his now wife under the apple trees out in the area there, which was a pretty neat event to see happen. So there is a lot of great memories that are happening because of what you're doing out there and what you do within our community, specifically with Strawberry Fest. So I just wanted once again thank you personally for all the work that you do to make our community a great place to live, work, and play. Thank you. No, I think we're good. You're good?
Okay, she needs to check.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Julie, did you want to say anything?
Yes.
Yeah.
Never been known not to talk. On behalf of the Public Safety Board, we thank you very much for your family's contributions so that we can help our fire and police departments with whatever they need, and we're continuing to help them out every year. So thank you very much.
All right, so you better walk him over to Sparky, either out here or somewhere, because he has his eye on you, Sparky. Thank you again. Yes, we're up. Back up.
You want to say a few words, Brendan?
Yes. You don't want to know what I say. All good things.
Jackie.
Just in here late.
Keep the mics on.
Oh, is that what it was, huh?
My review.
It's yours.
I love to do animal sounds. I wasn't even able to do it. Might be a little young.
Thank you, Pete and Rick. Thank you. All right, next on our agenda this evening is the consent calendar. Is there anything council would like to pull on consent? Councilmember Olson?
Item D, please.
Item D. All right, anybody else? All right, so we just have the one item. Councilmember Olson, D is superintendent hiring.
Thank you, Mayor, fellow council members. This item is to approve appointing Gary Orloff as our street superintendent, Jim Foreman as our park superintendent, and Rick Alt as utility superintendent, effective February 17th, 2020. And the reason I pulled this item is I just wanted to tell the public briefly a little bit about these three gentlemen who are on our consent agenda tonight for promotion into the superintendent positions, which were created by the org study that was completed late last year. If you don't already know Rick and Jim and Gary, hopefully you'll have an opportunity to get to meet them and get to know them, because they're amazing human beings who have dedicated a number of years of service to the city of Cottage Grove already. I'm going to start with Rick Alt. Rick is a 53-year resident of the city of Cottage Grove. He was born here. He was raised here. He went to Park High School. In fact, when I was at Park as a 1988 grad, Rick was one of our outstanding football players when I would go to the football games as a freshman. And he ended up marrying his high school sweetheart. He ended up getting a job here with the city of Cottage Grove. And he has worked in the city of Cottage Grove for 30 years plus up to this point. So he has dedicated a lot of time, a lot of blood, sweat, and tears, a lot of weekends and holidays and, all kinds of different, family events that he's had to miss for snow plowing and different things. So I couldn't be more pleased to have Rick ascending into the superintendent's position. Along with Rick, we have Jim Foreman, who also is a Park grad. Jim and I were on the wrestling team together, in fact. Jim is a 35-year Cottage Grove resident. As I mentioned, he's worked for Public Works for 23 years. And he is also very involved in Cottage Grove Athletic Association athletics. He has worked as a coach for both of his daughters for softball, and he also sits on the board for the Cottage Grove Athletic Association. So Jim, again, has dedicated many weekends, nights, holidays, etc., to serving this community in a variety of different roles, whether that be working for our Public Works Department or as a volunteer with the Athletic Association. And then finally, Gary Orloff, who also has lived in the city of Cottage Grove for a very long time, 32 years. Gary actually served on the fire department for 6 years. He was a firefighter. He was an EMT. And then he decided that that wasn't exciting enough, so he needed to go to work for Public Works. And he's been at Public Works for 23 years. And just like Jim, Gary raised his family here. He coached CGAA baseball. He coached football. He's been a foreman for the last 19 years down at Public Works. And so this is really a great opportunity for Gary to take another step up the ladder, as it were, in leadership at our Public Works Department and continue to contribute at a very high level and deliver a tremendous service to our community. Gary's also very well known for being the streets guy. So he's one of the ones that the residents see often when he's out working on their street, whether that be patching or putting fill in potholes, etc. And so he gets a lot of comments from residents and a lot of opportunity to interact with residents, and he does a really good job answering questions and acting as a brand ambassador. So again, I just wanted to take a moment to tell you a little bit about these three gentlemen, congratulate all three of them on this opportunity. It was a very rigorous hiring process. We interviewed a number of candidates. We opened it up to an external and an internal application process. Nothing was handed to these fellows. They had to earn it. But they've definitely earned their stripes at Public Works over the last many years, and I have no doubt they will continue to serve the city well into the future. Thank you.
All right, thank you. And I guess the only other comment I'd mention is the reason we're doing this too, by the way, is we went through a pretty extensive organizational study here in the city of Cottage Grove. And as you will see, both things that we've had before this meeting, but also at this meeting and ahead, we're going to continue to kind of align our staff to meet the goals and objectives of the community as we continue to grow into the future. And so I just wanted to agree. I think we all congratulate all three of them on this recent promotion and wish them much success in the future. So with that, nothing else was pulled on consent, so I will look for a motion to approve consent.
So moved.
Second.
That was Councilmember Olson first. I'm sorry, I missed it. Councilmember Olson made the motion, second by Councilmember Thiede. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. So if you happen to be here for anything that was on tonight's consent calendar, all of those items have been approved. 8 is approved disbursements. 8A is approved payments for the period of 1/10/2020 to 1/30/2020 in the amount of $2,218,276.49.
Motion to pay the bills.
All right, I have a motion by Councilmember Dennis.
Second.
Second by Councilmember Mills. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Public hearings, there are none tonight. 10 is bid awards, there are none tonight. 11 is regular agenda. We do have 2 items. We'll begin with the first one, which A is a rental license denial hearing. And our city attorney is going to be walking us through this, I believe. Maybe with Christine? Or she's just helping?
She's technical.
There you go.
Thank you, Your Honor, members of the council. Now, typically, you don't see me over here. You don't see me doing presentations in front of you. And I hope you take that seriously, because I feel like my role as your city attorney is to be counsel when you have questions, to guide you through these meetings as issues pop up, to give you appropriate legal advice, to be reactive, but to be in consultation with you and help guide you into implement the policies, and at your 10,000-foot level as you're looking down and you want to see things work, try to get you to make things work. We have certain things in place to do that, goals and objectives that you have directed staff to implement. We have rules that you have approved, adopted, and you have rules for a reason. So when city staff says we have some residents, consider them corporate residents, or citizens who are not following the rules, and I'm out of tools. I don't know what to do. They come to me for direction. That's what happened in this case. I'm here because city staff is at their wits' end with what to do with a rental license application and a particular corporate owner that is not playing by the rules. So this is a license hearing before you tonight. All license applications are approved by the City Council. You may not have realized it because typically they're on consent. In fact, there were about 30 of them on tonight's consent calendar that you just approved. So when they're not on consent, it's because there's been a bump that we need you to consider and review. And in this case, we're recommending denial of these particular applications. At the conclusion of tonight's hearing, you will be asked to make a decision. These are all of your options for making that decision. You can approve it outright, just as you would all of the other 30 applications that were on consent. You could deny it. You can approve a provisional license, which would have a mitigation plan. You can approve a license with reasonable conditions. Or you may indicate that you need more information and you may continue the matter to another meeting so that we can gather that information and provide that for you. The process for the hearing tonight will be as follows. I will present the information on behalf of the city, and I would like to submit all of the documentation that you currently have in front of you in your packet into the record. You also should take into account all of the other evidence and testimony that is submitted at tonight's hearing. After I conclude, the licensees should be given an opportunity to be heard either themselves or through their representatives. At any point in the discussion, in the testimony, in the presentation, if you have questions, feel free to interrupt. We want to make sure that you get all of the information that you need to make an informed decision. The mayor is the presiding officer, so if any of us get out of control, the mayor can hit his gavel. And ultimately, at the end, the council will make its decision. You have a rental license ordinance in your books, and the purpose of it is this. The purpose of this chapter is to protect the public health, safety, and welfare of the citizens of this city who live in rental units, the property owners who operate and manage rental units, and the general public who reside next to the rental units. And this is an important point. It's in your code. The operation of rental properties is a business enterprise that includes certain responsibilities. Ultimately, this is a business. You're dealing with a business license. We have certain rules in place regarding rental ordinances and rental licenses. They're fairly simple, but they come into play in these particular applications. Number one, no person shall operate a rental dwelling or a rental dwelling unit in the city without a license. Number two, the license application must have a satisfactory city-approved inspector's report before it's submitted to the city council. Number three, a tenant shall not occupy a dwelling unit that is the subject of a compliance order until the corrective action has been completed. And inspections shall be scheduled pursuant to subsection C. Subsection C says this: the owner is responsible for scheduling all required inspections within the building department. And if an owner fails to schedule a required inspection within 14 days of the rental license application being deemed complete, the housing official may recommend suspension, revocation, or denial of that application. That's where we are tonight. So as you can see, the process for approval is not a difficult path. The path is this: the applicant completes an application form. The form is on the city's website. You submit a fee, you submit your own BCA criminal background report. You request an inspection within 2 weeks. The city goes out and inspects, and you receive a satisfactory inspection report. At that point, it's submitted to the council. Assuming all of the check boxes are checked, it is submitted to the council on your consent calendar. It's not a difficult process to follow. The reason we're before you tonight is because we have a company that has come onto the scene in about the last 2 or 3 years and is buying up properties in this community and applying for rental licenses, and it has been a very bumpy process. We're not the luxury of being Minneapolis or St. Paul, where they have giant housing departments. We have a department of 1.5 people, if that. It's not a deep department with resources that are a luxury. To have to follow up on every single application would be so time consuming that we'd say scrap the whole process, it's not worth it. It's too hard. So we do have a majority of rental property owners who apply and follow the rules, and staff doesn't have to go back and continuously follow up on information. You need to complete this part of the application. You need to schedule an inspection. You need to submit your renewal application. Those things shouldn't have to be done time after time. This particular company seems to be a pattern. They have several assumed names, so it's taken us a while to kind of gather all the information and realize this is the same company, but Home Partners of America operates as Home Partners of America, New Path to Ownership, and then all of these other LLCs. I'm not going to pretend like I understand their business model or their business plan, but this is what I gathered from their website. The way they operate is, if you want to consider buying a home in Cottage Grove, you would go to their website, complete an application, and you could pre-qualify. It's supposedly an easier path to qualifying than the typical standard mortgage qualifications. You select a home on their site, so it's already a home that's for sale. They then go try to purchase that home. So they buy it for you. You then rent that home. You sign a 1-year license. It's annually renewable, and they also offer you the option to purchase it within the first 5 years. They have a set purchase price that increases each year of that option. There's no obligation to buy at the end, and your rent payments do not go towards the purchase price of the home. So you are simply renting that home. It's kind of try it out and see if you like it, maybe model. The rental applications that the city has received are not actually completed by Home Partners of America, but they're completed by Pathlight Property Management. It's not unusual for a property management company to complete the application form on behalf of the owner. That's very typical. They also provide a local contact information. Unfortunately, in this case, Pathlight Property Management is based out of Plano, Texas. Happens to have the same address as Home Partners of America. Not exactly local. They do have a local contact with a local email address and a local phone number, but they have a big asterisk next to that address and email that says, do not send anything to this address. And I've pointed out it's on page 38 of your packet if you're interested in seeing where that is, but it's right on the rental license application. To say the least, communication has been a problem with this corporation and with this company and trying to find someone to be responsive and to be responsible for these properties and these applications. The reason that you haven't heard about them before is because city staff wants to work with property owners. They want things to work well. And so they will work until the applications are complete. And then once they pass the inspection, it doesn't matter how many times they've had to contact the property owner, they will then recommend them for approval. So they haven't brought them to your attention until now. These are the 3 applications that straw that broke the camel's back, if you will. Currently, Home Partners of America has 17 rental licenses that have already been approved. So they own 17 properties that we know of in the city of Cottage Grove where there are renters. 9 of them expire at the end of this month. And just par for the course, renewal applications are due at the end of December. However, they have not submitted them yet until we drew it to their attention. They own properties that we know of in St. Paul Park, Woodbury, Forest Lake, Hugo, and I found out today in South St. Paul. As I was speaking to their city clerk, and she asked me, she knew I was doing another revocation hearing tonight. I did one in their community on Monday night. And she said, have you heard of Pathlight Properties? As a matter of fact, I have. Ironic that you would ask me that question today. I said, why have you heard of them? They have 5 rental properties with active licenses in South St. Paul, and 5 that she's aware of that have active renters but no rental licenses. It's a pattern. I don't know how many other communities are out there that they're doing this in. We know that they're doing it here. We know that they're doing it in South St. Paul. It's a corporate pattern of behavior. Somehow, we have to get their attention. I can't go to some magical state of Minnesota or national registry and revoke their property management license or their inability to own property. This is the tool that we have. So this is the tool that we're using. There are 3 properties under consideration for you tonight to consider denying the rental license applications of Home Partners of America, or I've abbreviated it as HPA. They are at 7824 Irish Avenue South, 8468 Jeffrey Avenue South, and 9061 Giroux Avenue South. I'll go through each of them for you briefly, although you have all this information in your packet. The packet does contain the most recent deeds, the recorded deeds against the property showing when they purchased it and some other property information for you. It includes the rental license application and some other relevant information if there were housing inspection reports where they failed. This particular property at 7824 Irish Avenue South was purchased on May 24th of last year. It has been occupied, according to our water usage records, in the month of June, starting in the month of June of 2019. We don't know specifically when, but we know it went from 0 water usage to suddenly there's water usage in the month of June in 2019. The rental application, however, was not submitted until July 1st. So obviously it was being occupied prior to an approved rental license. The rental inspection occurred on July 11th, and it failed. And it failed significantly because of a life safety issue. There is no working bathroom in that house. After sending multiple notices to someone at Home Partners of America, who I'm sure got the notice, and we don't know where it goes. We don't know who's responding, but apparently they are not fixing the problem because the property owners, as of August, indicated that they had a gym membership so they would have someplace to shower and use a bathroom. And as far as we know, it is still not in compliance and still occupied. So there are several violations of city code. As I indicated at the beginning, no person shall operate a rental license without a rental property without having a license. Tenants shall not occupy when there are outstanding compliance orders. And in addition, there's a violation of the maintenance code for having unsafe, unsanitary plumbing conditions. So, 2 violations of our city code that allow reasons to deny. The applicant has been conducting the business activity without a license, and the applicant has uncorrected orders for compliance. 8468 Jeffrey Avenue South was purchased in November of 2016. They had a valid rental license from 2017 and 2018, which expired, Again, they didn't apply for a renewal until February 1st. The rental inspection failed on February 11th. At that time, the unit was unoccupied. They were given a notice of compliance on 3 different occasions. At some point during the month of March, again, it was occupied because the water usage went from 0 to something. And as far as we know, again, it is still not in compliance. There still is no rental license. They have not fixed the outlet in the property that they've notified us of or requested another inspection, and it is still occupied. So, again, they've violated at least 3 sections of the city code, and these are the reasons to deny. They've been conducting the business activity without a license, and they have uncorrected violations in a compliance order. 9061 Giroux was purchased last June of 2019. The application was not submitted for at least a month, July 22nd of 2019, and they have never requested an inspection. The reason we have inspections is to protect the public health, safety, welfare of our residents. Tenants are residents. They deserve to have a safe living environment, and that's why you adopt the rental license ordinance to begin with. So not calling for an inspection at all, we have no idea what kind of conditions. They might be fine. They might not be fine. We don't know, because they've never called for an inspection. We know it's been occupied since at least July. So again, no person shall operate without a license, and the owner or the owner's agent is responsible for scheduling that inspection. It's not the city's duty to call and say, hey, we need to get in there for your inspection so that we can submit your rental application. The duty is on them. If they want to do business in this town, these are our rules. Follow our rules. It's not that hard. So the applicant has been conducting the business without a license. It's a pattern. They don't schedule inspections. They allow tenants to occupy prior to the issuance of a license. They're not responsive to any communications from the city, and they allow tenants to occupy in hazardous conditions. I'm not sure this is a responsible business owner that you want to give licenses to. They have 17 licenses. Those have all passed inspections. These 3, not so much. What does denying these 3 rental license applications mean? It means that they would not be allowed to apply for a rental license for these 3 properties for 6 months. It means the tenants would have to move. Now, I assume all these tenants have leases. They didn't violate the lease. Their landlord did. They have remedies available to them, and I would strongly suggest that they contact an attorney to make sure that they get what they're entitled to under their lease. Now, we're not stopping Home Partners of America from applying for any other rental licenses in town. If they buy up other properties and they want to apply for a license, that's fine. We will consider each one on its own merits. But follow the rules. We'll gladly recommend approval on a consent agenda, like the other 30 that were included in your packet tonight. Just follow the rules. We need to send a serious message to HPA. We need to get their attention. And again, this is the only tool we have. So I do have a recommendation for you. And the recommendation is that I would ask that you move to adopt resolutions 2020-16, 17, and 18, denying the rental licenses at 7824 Irish Avenue South, 8468 Jeffrey Avenue South, and 9061 Giroux Avenue South. I stand for any questions for you, and if not, I would ask you to invite the licensee applicant to come forward or the representative to present their information and anything they wish you to know.
Sounds good. Thank you. Council, any questions for Corey at this point? I'll start with Councilmember Olson.
Thanks, Corey. We don't often get the pleasure, so appreciate you walking us through this. You did a nice job of spelling out all of the various options, the violations, and the recommended remedy. I have a couple of questions that might seem a little extreme potentially, but bear with me. When we work with contractors in the city who come in and they bid a project and they don't perform, and they show a pattern of not performing, we have a process through which we can actually, for lack of a better phrase, blackball them from being able to do business in the city. Does such a thing exist in this world?
Your Honor, members of the council, I think it's important to remember that every single application is different and has its own nuances that you need to consider. So although you may keep that in the back of your mind, that you've had some issues in the past with a particular licensee or applicant, you need to keep an open mind when considering each new one that comes before you.
Okay, fair enough. And then the second part is, and you've answered it to some degree, you know, there's victims in this potential outcome who really haven't committed any, you know, for lack of a better phrase, violation or crime. And, you know, that's certainly collateral damage. It's very difficult to think through, you know, what remedies do they have available? I know you mentioned getting legal counsel. You know, beyond that, are there public agencies that they might be able to work with, contact? Is that information available? Is that something the city could provide them if indeed we do choose to deny these rental licenses? How does that process play out?
Your Honor, members of the council, that's a great real life question. And obviously we can't give legal advice to them. We're not privy to their contract. The lease agreement is between the property owner and the tenant. So I'm sure there are adequate remedies in that contract. There are certainly, and Washington County may have some resources available in their social services department to help address some home line. I know there's a home line tenant line that the state of Minnesota has. I don't know the number off the top of my head. But there is some free advice that just for tenants, when they get caught in a awkward landlord position, that can help guide them in the right direction. I would think, since a lot of these tenants have already qualified through their home partner's pre-qualifying application, there may be other properties that Home Partners of America would offer them to move them to. I don't know. They can explore those kinds of options with the owner if they choose to continue that relationship.
Okay, thank you. And then the last thing that I had is, you know, we often will hear anecdotally, so-and-so's using their property as a rental property and they haven't received the proper approvals. They've allowed somebody to live in the property, to pay rent, and in essence, you know, utilize that as a domicile when they haven't gotten approval, they haven't gotten licenses and all those kinds of things. So when that happens, and in this particular case, you've mentioned that these folks are knowingly allowing people to live in these properties without the proper licenses, and the city is actually aware of it and has contacted them, but in many cases the city doesn't even know, it's just happening. You know, what sorts of fines, penalties, et cetera, could potentially be levied when those activities occur, knowingly or unknowingly, where people frankly are putting other people's lives at risk? Right. You mentioned life safety issues that exist in some of these properties, and taking money for a rental that isn't really a rental.
Right. Your Honor, members of the council, every ordinance in your city code is potentially a misdemeanor. Some of them are petties if it's a parking violation, but the majority of them are misdemeanors. And so the remedy is, if we find a property owner who has not applied for a rental license and has no permission to utilize their property in any way except as homesteaded property, we could issue them a criminal citation because it's a violation of our city code.
Okay, so what you're saying is it's a crime.
Yes.
And they could potentially be, you know, accused and then ultimately convicted of a crime if they continue to perform this way.
Correct.
Thank you.
Okay, actually, Councilmember Dennis was next.
Thank you, Mayor. Corey, just a quick question for you. Obviously, we're talking about, you know, the biggest reason that we do inspections is to promote the safety for people to live in these structures. I'm curious, and just from my knowledge, when a person rents a property and that property has not been certified for use as such, does this also impact their ability to, you know, file for a renter's tax credit? Do you know?
I do not know the answer to that question.
Okay. My suspicion is, and I haven't rented since 1989, but my suspicion is that that would be the case, so that would be yet another problem that folks are facing that are in that position. So
I'm sorry, Your Honor, members of the council, I don't know the tax consequences of that.
I stumped the attorney.
There you
You
go.
did.
Wow. Thank you.
Okay.
Sorry.
Councilmember Thiede?
So I was just curious, in terms of trying to, warn potential renters about this company and that is the Better Business Bureau still a thing?
I believe it is.
Is that something that we can actually send information to kind of warn people? But
Certainly. I mean, I would love to get the attention of as many organizations or agencies, whoever licenses, promotes. The problem is again, we're a city with limited resources and limited remedies. This is the one tool I can pull out of the toolbox. So that's what I'm offering to you tonight.
Okay. Any other questions? Yeah, I guess the only other question I have for you, Corey, is, so let's say in the end here we move the resolutions that are before us and we deny the rental licenses. I know in the information that was provided to us that we would alert those particular tenants to let them know they have a period of time to vacate that home. Is that correct?
Yes, and Your Honor, if I may even go even further, since these are sort of rent to own, they could exercise their option to purchase. And so if someone wanted to do that, and obviously maybe fix some life safety issues, but if they chose to go down that route, we wouldn't kick them out early. I mean, obviously it takes time to get through a closing. We know that, we understand that. So we'd be willing to be flexible on that. But up to 90 days feels, in most rental situations, is appropriate.
Okay. And I do know that, the reason a few years back, I guess, it's been a few, we really tightened up our ordinances in this case is because we were having some concerns with some landlords that were renting properties in Cottage Grove, but then they were also renting properties or had rental issues happening in St. Paul Park and in Newport. And we wanted to, I guess, as you said earlier, kind of send a message and have some teeth behind this program so that we don't put people's lives in jeopardy. And I know some people might be out there thinking, well, that's really extreme to say that, but it's not. I mean, to be honest with you, on the one, I even said twice to you tonight, I cannot believe that they're living in a house without a working bathroom. It just, I don't understand it. So, and I can't understand that there would be a company out there that would allow that to happen, personally speaking. So, but that's why I was curious about that. So let's say, just again, hypothetically here, let's say we move forward with this. They have, let's say, 60 days to vacate the property. I'm assuming we're going to go back out there as a city and inspect, or when I say inspect is to make sure that the home is...
To make sure that it's vacant.
Yes.
Yep. And Your Honor, because we own the water utility, we can check water usage
Right.
as well to verify.
Okay. So at that particular time, if they haven't vacated, what's our next remedy? Can you elaborate?
Technically, they'd be violating your resolution. We could issue a trespass to the tenants because they will be notified. At that point, it's on them. The tenants need to vacate the property. So whether or not there's rent being collected, so we would go back to the property owner again, we may not know. But at that point, the tenants would be given a trespass notice and be informed that the property is uninhabitable, it is an unlicensed rental property, and they must vacate. And so they could be issued criminal citations as well.
Okay.
That would be a really unfortunate outcome.
I agree, but I just wanted to know what that next phase would be, if you will, if that were to get to that point. Okay. Any other questions for our city attorney? All right. Is somebody here that's, yep, if you want to just come up and state your name and address for the record, please.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Anthony Hughes. I am the regional manager for our field services and project management teams for the Midwest. So oversee Minnesota, Chicago, Illinois, Kansas City, St. Louis, as well as some other smaller towns within the Midwest region. Behind me, we have two local representatives here. So we have our field services compliance team member now, and I'll explain that as we go on. His name is Adam Shank, and we have Aaron Taylor, who is a resource manager, both locally here in Minneapolis and St. Paul. I guess I want this to be free-flowing for you guys. If you have questions, please stop me, ask me any questions. It doesn't matter what the question is. But to start everything off, on behalf of Home Partners of America, I want to sincerely apologize in relation to the attorney who spoke. I don't have a lot of rebuttals for the things that you laid out. You know, in terms of what my overall role is with the company, Home Partners of America and Pathlight Property Management. To make a clarification, you did bring up, so Pathlight Property Management is doing all of the applications for Home Partners of America. That seems weird, okay? Home Partners of America owns Pathlight Property Management. So Pathlight Property Management is the property management arm of Home Partners of America. So that's why you do see that. One of the difficulties with that is that Pathlight itself is based in Plano, okay? Home Partners of America, the parent company, is based in Chicago, which is where I work. The complexities that we've seen with Pathlight, our compliance team, there's a compliance department in Pathlight in Plano that works with all of these different municipalities, whether it be here in Minnesota, whether it be in Illinois, or across the nation. You have that one team that is working remotely to try to push these applications forward and get things done so that residents can move into homes. I will let you know that I believe that process has been broken, okay? I'll just say it here, and this is where we come in. So previously, everything for Minnesota has been dealt with through Plano, okay, through our compliance team. What we've done is an organizational change within the last month where now the field services team, the guys that you have in the fields and the gals that you have in the field here in Minneapolis will be the ones that will be pushing the process forward with the application process, with any compliance or violation follow-up, with the ordering of any of that work so that it's not lost in translation. In the previous format, what would happen is our field services team would help out the compliance team. They would meet the compliance code officer at the home, and they would write the report up, and they'd send it to our home office. The code compliance person would also send that report to our home office. But in regards to some of that communication, it seemed to be lost in translation. So now what we want to do is we've heard it loud and clear. You have the attention of Home Partners of America. We want to do whatever possible to remedy the situations that are going on within the three homes that she laid out. But beyond just those three homes, we want to do anything possible to make sure that the relationship is better than it has been. You know, and anything, any ideas that you guys have, I'm open to that so that we can take it back to the team. My major concern here today is to, one, let everybody know that you have our full attention. Absolutely. To me, there is no way that we would continue to do business in the way that it was done. And so my team and our vertical within Home Partners of America have taken over this now to the point where you'll no longer have to deal with someone that's in Plano. You'll have a local representative. So Adam Shank is taking over as the field services team member for compliance. So his role now is going to be to oversee all of the inspections within the municipality, all of the follow-up from those inspections, and the ordering of all of the work, limiting the things getting lost in translation or the things getting lost and you're mailing things to Plano and it doesn't get found by a team member until 10 days later. So we want to take care of that and we want to remedy that. But as far as, you know, any of the process stuff, if you guys have any questions for me, I'm here. I want to answer anything that you have or any questions that you have so that we can move forward. My biggest concern is that I don't want to see the residents in these three homes displaced because of something that our office teams failed to do. Okay?
Okay. All right. Councilmember Thiede.
So as in any kind of customer service type of environment, you know, I've been in service environments for a long time. Get calls at 1 a.m., computer system's down. You know, you get out there and you make it happen. You get it to work. So I'm going to ask you right now. You know, one thing is very easy in one of those houses. The other thing, bathroom's a little harder. When are you going to have those fixed?
So at this point, do you have your information so I can just pull it up?
I don't have it with me.
So in terms of the first two homes, not the Irish, I believe it's Irish Springs, that Irish Avenue that came up as the one with the bathroom issue. That has been, to my knowledge, that has now been approved to remedy the bathroom. What I anticipate is that should be done within the next 7 days for that. I'm not sure exactly what the overall issues were with the bathroom. I've heard, we had an issue where the door wasn't operational. So you can't close the shower door, and because you can't close the shower door, you have water that can go everywhere, and then you have slip hazards and you have other safety issues that could be a result of that. The other two homes are already in the process and should be ready for reinspection.
They sent that yesterday.
Yeah.
The reinspection.
Okay.
And the reinspection is?
All the renewals have been sent, overnighted.
So for the renewals, I believe there were 9 of the 17 that were pending. Those were overnighted yesterday to the offices. So that was overnighted from Plano. And again, to clarify, now with the process of us having a local representative to be able to go into the office, to be able to nurture those relationships that she brought up where you don't have a contact, that's what we want to do. And the company has heard this. I flew in today from Chicago. They wanted me to be here. I wanted to be here. They wanted to be here to fix the relationship. So whatever it is we need to do to fix this relationship, we're going to do it. I understand everything she laid out. Like I said, I don't have a rebuttal for that. Our overall company premise is to put good people in good homes and try to help them secure a home and secure their dreams. So it's unfortunate when things like this happen because it really tarnishes the reputation of the company, and we want to do whatever it is necessary to get it done. And, if I need to come to council meetings for the next month or whatever the case may be, we'll do what we need to do to get it done.
Okay. Councilmember Dennis.
Thank you, Mayor. Well, thank you for coming out. We certainly appreciate hearing from you. I wish we could have heard from you a lot sooner than this, because what has happened is we've been chasing our tails around here trying to get to the bottom and make this thing right for people. And Dave mentioned, Councilmember Thiede mentioned the fact that, this is a customer service issue. And so I don't feel very good about the way it's gone. I don't think many people do. We want to see this situation get remedied, okay? That's the bottom line. So what I would remind, and because I carry a license here in the city too for something, a license is it's a privilege. It's not a right or a guarantee. And so when we do the right things and we take care of all the requirements as requested by the issuing body, we stay in good standing. Business is good. We take care of our customers. A lot of great things happen. But this is really, for our city attorney to have to get up and go through this. I've been here for 6 years, and I've never seen her come to the podium before to have this type of conversation. So this really, really lets me, and I think the rest of the council, know that we've got an issue here. So, Mayor, if you're okay, I would simply like to go to a motion with this.
Can we pause for one
Sure,
second, though? Because
sure.
I believe Councilmember Olson wanted to make a comment, and then we can go down that road. Councilmember Olson?
Thank you. Similar to my colleague, Councilmember Thiede, as well as my colleague, Councilmember Dennis, this situation has clearly gotten our attention because our attorney doesn't do this lightly. This is a big deal. And obviously your company felt compelled to respond. They've asked you to fly in. That's fantastic. I'm glad to see that. The horse is a bit out of the barn, as they say, however. And so to try to put the genie back in the bottle might be a little late for that. The intercompany workings of your organization and, the lost in translation things that you referenced, et cetera, those are very unfortunate. What I'm looking at, however, is what have we done? What have we, within our span of control as the agency responsible for issuing the licenses, what have we done to try to get people on your side of the fence to understand that action was required? And it's been an awfully long time. What has gotten my attention most, however, this evening is the fact that, in essence, we have people living in rental properties illegally. So they're in violation of the law because there's no license. And on top of that, they're in an unsafe environment. And personally speaking, and I can't speak for the rest of my colleagues, I can't abide that. I can't let that happen. And I'm certain that you're good people with good intentions who want to do the right things, and I can't tell you enough how much we appreciate that. But we have to do the right thing as well. And in my view, the right thing is to adopt these resolutions. So I guess if my colleague wants to make that motion, I'd certainly support it.
Okay, I'm going to finish gathering information. Councilmember Thiede.
So, I'd like a clarification. So if we actually do this resolution, deny these, it's an absolute 6 months before anybody could really live in that house. So my question would be, is if we, made a commitment, he said in a week, that bathroom be taken care of, if we put a deadline as a certain day and time that everything will be taken care of and the house will be inspected, could we put that in as a conditional statement that if that doesn't happen, then these resolutions would, it would be denied?
Your Honor, members of the council, if that's the direction the council wanted to go to kind of hold them to their word, I would suggest that you put a hard deadline on it and continue this hearing to the next meeting. And then at that meeting, if they have failed, you adopt the resolutions at that point.
And then I would also add that if, put a conditional in there that if they, they do take care of this one, but then fall back into their inaccurate processes or whatever, or the bad processes, then we could potentially even go so far as making some other decisions about HRA, it's HRA? HPA, sorry, of even being able to do business in the town, in the city.
Obviously, Your Honor, as I said, you have to take every application on its face. But if they did fall into a pattern again of allowing tenants to occupy prior to receipt of the approved license, you would have every reason to deny.
Okay. So I just want to be clear, Corey, you said that if because I heard a couple different things from the council here, so that's why I'm trying to make sure we're going down the right path. We could, if you will, if you said this right, table this until the next meeting with a hard date is an option, that they would have to have 100% everything done before our next council meeting. Is that correct?
Your Honor, certainly. That's what Councilmember Thiede was alluding to.
Yes,
is how
that's
do
what
we
I'm
get
checking.
to give a hard deadline and yet still have the option to deny the rental license applications? And I think continuing it to the next meeting would be appropriate. Just continue this hearing to the next meeting, if that's the direction the council wants to go.
No, that's fine, and that's why I'm asking.
Right, and at this point, Your Honor, I would ask that before you make or before anyone makes a motion, that you do solicit any more feedback from the applicants. They are here, and they should be given a full opportunity to be heard if they have anything else to say before the motion is made.
Okay. So I guess before we do anything more on questions up here, is there anybody else from your group there that would like to speak?
Did either one of you want to say anything before?
Yeah, I'll just say something.
And if you would just state your name and address for the record, please.
Name and address?
Yes.
Adam Shank, 1730 Graham Avenue in St. Paul. So like my colleague Anthony alluded to, we just kind of created a new role that's going to help deal with all compliance related issues throughout Minnesota. And like he explained, instead of having to send these licenses, contact Plano and do all this back and forth, I'm going to be at every single inspection myself. I'm going to create the work orders myself. I'm going to make sure the work orders get done myself. Applying for these rental licensing, keeping track of the rental licensing, making sure everything is up to par. And then if I need to rely on a department to help me out because there's too much workload or whatever, I have a whole department at my disposal to help out with that. So I just want to make sure and just hammer that point home is that there's now going to be a local person doing all compliance related items for this municipality.
Okay, all right. Anybody else want to speak? I didn't know if the gentleman that got up.
He's our attorney.
Okay.
Legally.
Okay. Is there anything that you would like to say at this point, or?
Just so I don't look like I'm hiding.
No, that's fine.
I'm Trevor Oliver, 8401 Wayzata Boulevard in Golden Valley, firm of Burns and Hanson. I was going to come up and talk about the option. My idea was provisional license, but actually city attorney's idea is better. So it sounds like I mentioned that the next council meeting is in 2 weeks, and everyone nodded their approval that they could get it done in 2 weeks. So that would be our request, is that it be continued and these folks get these houses squared away and these people can stay where they are and everyone can have a good house.
Okay. Councilmember Mills.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you for coming and speaking, and I'm glad to hear that you are making some changes. The job I do during the day deals a lot with licenses and compliance, and there's not a lot of gray area in the area that I work. And so what I like that I hear is that you're making changes. So personally, I look at this and go, good, we've got more licenses coming up. There's going to be a change, and we're going to see a positive thing come out of this. I have a difficulty in granting these licenses personally because of the areas I work in and needing to have those set up. And in that business, and I know that's not you personally, but the company you work for, I'm glad they've responded now, but they should have been responding before. And they made it awfully difficult for our community and other communities to be able to work through that process of something that's very important. And I can't have people living in a home that's not safe in my community in this role that I live with. So that's where I stand, but I will kind of go with the direction of our council here and see where we go. But I'm glad you're making those changes, so I do look forward to seeing that remedy moving forward. So thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Councilmember Olson.
Thank you, Mayor. Again, I appreciate the fact that you're working to make change. Clearly, you have a systemic issue. Otherwise, you wouldn't have been prompted to make these changes. The young man who spoke, was it Trevor? Adam. How long have you been employed by this company?
I've been employed with Pathlight for about 7 months.
For about 7 months, okay. In the current role, or is this a new role?
No, my current role is brand new, still being trained in and hashed out.
Okay. So what that says to me as a business operator myself is that the company has identified some gaps in their performance. And as a result of that, they have decided to make some adjustments in the way that they've mapped out their staff and probably some process enhancements, some different things. And again, that says, and our attorney brought it up as well, that this issue isn't specific to the city of Cottage Grove, but it's actually a problem throughout a number of municipalities in which you're trying to do business. Accurate?
I would say yes, that is accurate.
Okay, good. So kudos for attempting to remedy that. Sounds like a big job. Sounds like there's going to be a lot of work on your plate. So I hope you like Red Bull or whatever the energy drink of choice is these days. But again, just speaking for myself and for the community that I'm serving in this role, my concern, my primary concern, is that today, right now, at this moment that we're having this conversation, these people are living in these abodes illegally and unsafely, according to our staff members. I'd like that to be fixed in the blink of an eye. I know that that's not reality. Ideally, you'd get this remedied as fast as possible, but the opportunity has been there to do the right thing for a really long time. And the process that we have followed is the process we were expected to follow. It was the process that you organizationally had in place that we needed to follow, and it didn't get us to where we needed to go. That's why we're here. So kudos for fixing that process. Hopefully it works out, but there's no guarantee that that new process is going to be the magic bullet. It's a work in progress. You just said that, and we know that too. I want these people to be in a home that is safe, that is licensed, and that we have inspected and feel comfortable with. And I can't say that right now. So again, I can't support anything other than the recommendation.
Okay. Councilmember Thiede.
And again, that, the fact is that if it was only HPA that was essentially getting issue or getting a reprimand or punished, whatever you want to call it, that'd be fine. My problem is that with that 6-month requirement, that means that we're putting a burden on the people that are actually living in those 3 homes right now. And I don't like that. So that's why I believe if we give them a deadline and have everything by the next meeting inspected and the whole works, okay, that would at least allow those people to stay in those homes. Then the other condition is that if they do not conform and get a lot better, then we'll take the next action against HPA to then not allow them to do business in Cottage Grove. And so, big issue with me is that if we approve this the way it is, we're kicking three families out of their homes.
Okay. Councilmember Dennis.
Thank you, Mayor. A couple things before I try to craft a motion here. Yes, we have the ordinance, which acts as a guiding policy for us here, but I do believe that we have the opportunity to vary from an ordinance or come back and rework our statement relative to an ordinance if the council can articulate a justifiable reason as to why. I believe that's correct. I'm looking at our attorney. You can nod yes or no. Yeah. Oh, okay. So that's the understanding. So I don't have any fear relative to saying that, we'd ultimately put these folks out of a home. We don't want to do that. But what we have to have is an opportunity here to have something in this that is going to guarantee that we get this job done and taken care of on behalf of the residents. And that's the thing. We're trying to work on behalf of people. So before I put a motion forward, I would like to reach over to our city administrator and give Jennifer Levitt an opportunity to weigh in as our administrator.
Well, thank you, Mayor, members of the council. I think this is obviously a very difficult decision you have to make, and I think you've indicated that life safety is the critical component. There's one piece of information in the record that I'd just like to draw your attention to. It was an email that our code enforcement officer sent after numerous communications regarding the Irish property. It states the 7824 Irish Avenue has not had any functioning bathrooms since the tenant has moved in on June 1st, 2019. I completed an inspection of the property on July 11th, 2019, at which time I confirmed that both bathrooms were unusable due to an unrepaired leak. Because of this, the inspection failed and a license was not issued. We have repeatedly, as staff, sought the life, safety, and well-being of these properties and the people that are occupying them, and we are stating to you they are not in a safe situation. And we think it is appropriate for you to take the advice and recommendation of the city attorney to enact the denial of these licenses and prevent them from licensing them for an additional 6 months. These are significant life safety issues, and these tenants have had to endure an unsafe condition.
Okay, thank you very much. With that, Mayor, I will make a motion to adopt resolutions 2020-016, 2020-017, and 2020-018, denying the rental licenses at 7824 Irish Avenue South, 8468 Jeffrey Avenue South, and 9061 Giroux Avenue South.
Okay, so I do have a motion by Councilmember Dennis, second by Councilmember Olson. Further discussion? Yes, Councilmember Dennis.
Thank you, Mayor. And I do want to say that I respect Councilmember Thiede for his considerate approach to those residents, and I do want him to have my personal guarantee that as soon as these things get taken care of, that I will support with you that we get this put back together so those people do not have to move. So that's my
Well, it's going to be 6 months. It can't be rented for 6 months.
No, we have the ability to override that as a council.
Didn't I ask that question? And I was told it'd be 6 months. So those people couldn't rent that home for 6 months.
Your Honor, members of the council, this particular property owner cannot reapply for a rental license application for a period of 6 months. It is in the resolution that these tenants will be given up to 90 days to vacate the premises. If the council wants to change that recommendation, you certainly can do that, or change that condition in the resolution, you can do that, and I suggest you do that before you vote. Otherwise, what typically happens, and unfortunately I can say typically because I have had the displeasure of having these kinds of hearings before other city councils. This is not unique. It's unique to you. Unfortunately, it does happen in other communities as well. And it is a very serious practical issue for these tenants. But city staff will work with them and will be reasonable. If they come and they say, I have tried and tried and tried to find alternative housing, my 90 days is up, I just signed a lease and I need another 30 days. We're not going to go in with a uniformed police officer and remove them from their homes. We will be reasonable about it. So what I'm telling you is it's up to 90 days in the resolution, but if someone is working with staff, telling staff what their plans are, when they can vacate the property, we'll work with that plan. So 90 days is a goal, and it's a hard goal. If someone completely, stops communicating with us and refuses to leave, of course, we're going to enforce our code. But as long as they're working with us, trying to find alternative housing, we'll work with them.
Okay, Councilmember Olson.
Thank you, Mayor. One of the reasons I asked one of the questions earlier of our attorney regarding what could potentially happen with the residents should this pass is because I wanted the answer to the question ahead of time in order to justify in my mind that there were remedies available to these residents. And so I asked the question, what sorts of remedies may be available through the county, through the state, staff. The attorney's response was, well, we can't give them legal counsel, although we would recommend that they get an attorney of their own. But Washington County has remedies. There's different public agencies available out there. It's why I asked the question. Because clearly the intent here is not to displace residents or cause hardship. That being said, I don't think we accept any blame or responsibility for being responsible for displacing these residents because the situation they're in is not our fault. We're simply the agency that is acting on behalf of not only these residents, but all of the residents in our community to send a very clear message that the law must be followed and that when it's not, and we've attempted to work with you for months and months and months and months to get your attention and enable you to do the right thing, and you've chosen to ignore us for whatever reason, whether your company communication is flawed or, there's different things, that at the end of that process, there has to be some sort of consequence. This is the fault of the property owner, and the property owner needs to fix it. And if that means that they relocate these residents into other properties that they own, which is something that our attorney suggested could potentially be a remedy, then so be it. But the bottom line is we have to enforce our code and our ordinance. And I feel like our staff, our code enforcement officer, our attorney, have gone more than the extra mile in order to try to get this company to do the right thing. And doing the right thing in this circumstance isn't terribly difficult. It's pretty fundamental. So we haven't asked anybody to jump through flaming hoops or stand on their head and, do special acrobatics at the circus. We've simply asked them to follow the process the way that the process is laid out. I think we're perfectly justified in the action that we're taking, and I'm going to vote in the affirmative.
Okay. Councilmember Thiede?
So, as a manager, in my years of experience, if I had a broken process, I made a commitment of when I'd get it done, when I'd get it taken care of. And if I didn't do it, then that customer has every right to go somewhere else. So we had just gotten a commitment that within the next 2 weeks, even within the week, that bathroom would be taken care of, all the issues be taken care of, the places would be inspected. And then we could look at it again at the next council meeting. Now what you're saying is well, in 90 days and this and that. So you're subjecting those people to actually potentially having to move them somewhere else, okay, and potentially not having that done for another 90 days or longer. I just don't understand why we would not want to say, take that commitment, make sure that commitment happens. If it doesn't, then you say that that has to happen. Those people that they can't get the license and so forth. I just don't understand it.
Okay. Any other comments? The only other comment I guess I'll make as the mayor is, we just had our State of the City earlier this evening, and I commented that I have spent 12 years on the council. 12 years as mayor, I should say. 4 years prior to that on the council and 8 years prior to that on the planning commission. And this is the first time that this has ever happened, where our attorney has had to come over and address us in this way. And though I absolutely respect the comments that were made by Councilmember Thiede, and I, in the process here, was even kind of looking, how do we kind of figure this thing out? The fact of the matter does remain, we put together numerous attempts to reach them. And our code enforcement officer knows me, well, she knows me, I'm the mayor, but I stop by her desk quite often when I get phone calls or issues or things happen. And I think one of your biggest frustrations, if I might say, is how long it takes for you to get things fixed. And one of the things that I have asked our attorney and our city administrator is do whatever we can from a legal standpoint to put quicker fixes in place to get these things done that have legal ramifications, whether it's damages, whatever, you name it, so that we don't run into these situations. It is bad for these people, but to be frank with you, the one individual has been living without a working bathroom since last year. I don't even know how a company could, I don't care how many people or messages got sent to whoever it got sent to, it doesn't even matter to me, because we, as a city representing that tenant, was trying to get somebody to come in there and fix it, but nobody did. And I understand that sounds like you've got a process you're going to follow now. I guess what I would share with you is it sounds like you have multiple other rental properties here within Cottage Grove, which is fine. And I know our attorney said each one will be treated with, as each individual property. But I can tell you, being the first one that I know that we've had to deal with in this situation, I'm going to be looking and watching on those particular properties, and all properties for that matter. But the fact of the matter is, I'm extremely concerned with what I have seen, that in the way that you're operating these properties and the way it's happened. Understand you fixed it, it sounds like, but I can't look over what's happened in the past. I can't. So in this particular case, we have a motion and a second at this point, so I'll leave it up for any further discussions at this point, and then I'll go for a vote.
Well, those properties are due for renewal, Corey, I believe. Did you say 220?
228, I think.
Your Honor, members of the council, the 9 applications or 9 properties are up for renewal at the end of this month.
And I think what we heard is those renewal documents that we've been waiting on were supposedly overnighted from Plano, Texas, to our offices yesterday, meaning they should be here today.
And they were not.
Right.
But overnight doesn't always mean overnight.
Sure.
So overnight might mean
But
tomorrow.
today's the 5th of the month. So then we will have to scramble to do inspections and all of that stuff in order to ensure that those documents, which are super late, are processed in a timely fashion so that those licenses can be renewed, provided the inspections go well, et cetera, correct?
Absolutely correct.
Okay. I mean, what more do you need to know?
Right.
They're-
I have a feeling you'll be checking the consent
Yeah,
calendar. a
we'll be
little
watching
more-
closely.
More detail.
Well, it's my belief. I just got a message that they have arrived. So they did arrive today at City Hall for those 9. So, and the reason that we're bringing this up, or Councilmember Olson is bringing this up, is in order to meet the deadline, we have one more council meeting this month, which is the 18th, I believe? 19th, I'm sorry, the 19th.
14 days from today.
Yeah,
Do the
so
math.
we have
both
to-
went to Park. I know
Yeah.
it's tough. Yeah.
So you're in a real tight time frame right now to make sure that those licenses don't fall out of compliance. And I know our code enforcement people will do everything they can to help you to make sure that the inspections are done on time. And now that you're involved, I'm hoping that you'll be able to work very closely with Emily and the group over there so that we can get those taken care of so we don't run into this again. Okay? All right, Council, I'm calling for the vote. All those in favor of the motion as recommended signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Aye.
Motion carries 4-1. Okay. All right. Next on our agenda this evening is the B. It's actually a continuance from the previous meeting, and I do see they're here, regarding the liquor compliance check violation for underage sales. And this was the situation that there were some questions regarding the situation at Walmart. Actually, I'll let our Director of Public Safety, and then we'll have you come up. So Director of Public Safety, Pete Kerner, if you want to take this through.
Well, good evening, Mayor, Council. I apologize, I wasn't at the meeting last week, and I think I probably could have done a better job in the packet, getting you a lot of the information, and that would have clarified a lot of things. So lesson learned. So tonight, I'm going to go through what our process is, and I'm not going to read through every slide. It's a lot of information. But as you know, on November 22nd, the Cottage Grove Public Safety Department conducted liquor compliance checks of the Cottage Grove businesses holding liquor licenses by using an underage buyer, and the City Council held hearings on violations by 4 businesses at the January 15th, 2020 regular meeting. During the hearing for Walmart Inc., DBA Walmart Store 2448, there were some questions about the compliance check as well as the procedure followed. Our department is following best practices. Washington County Department of Public Health and Environment recommends 2 checks each, tobacco and alcohol, and I kind of just put a slide out there showing that a majority do 2. But when I say it's best practices, that doesn't mean we can't even do it better. And I think there were some good questions raised by the council. I did watch the meeting and wrote a lot of notes. I went right to our sergeant that oversees the program, and I think we have some ideas. We'd like to do a workshop to discuss things. But for tonight, I'd really like to just kind of go over what our procedure is and what we followed with the Walmart violations. So the one thing right away I want to mention is I think Councilmember Dennis even brought up a checklist on what we tell everyone. Even though we have the procedure and we say right there, this is what we tell them, Sergeant McCormick has already created a participant consent alcohol and tobacco compliance check form that they can check off. And it's just to reiterating all the things we tell them. So it's a good change that we're already working on. So obviously, you can read the compliance mission. We strive for 100% compliance. Violations are a lot of work. We want to educate. We don't have a huge problem in Cottage Grove with underage, sales, and majority of the time we do have compliance. But I think there's always areas for improvement. But we do strive for that 100% compliance. There's a lot of training and information that goes out there. As a department, we've always been open with our business community. However, Washington County already offers some outstanding training, and we just don't feel it's necessary for us to duplicate all of that. That's their area, that's where they get their funding. But Washington County does offer free training for businesses that serve alcohol and tobacco in Washington County. I asked them for all their training documents, and they sent it. We have really good success rate with Cottage Grove. I noticed a lot of the businesses, they show up in a lot of their staff. So many of them don't just send one person, they send as many of their staff members as possible. All of this is mailed to the license holders. And I think in the future, this is a good way for our compliance officers, maybe at the beginning of the year, just stop by and deliver the things in person and let them know that if it doesn't work with these training dates, Cottage Grove, we have 4 outstanding officers that are a part of this program that will come out and conduct some training. I oversaw the compliance in 2003 to 2006. I did a lot of meetings with some of the owner. It was just easier for me to do it on a Monday with their staff when they had an in-service. So that offer always goes out. So Detective Sergeant Michael McCormick, he oversees the compliance check program. He just took it over last year, and he does want to revamp it and make sure that everything is up to speed. So far, he's given me so much information. He's just burying me in my desk, but he's very thorough. So we do have 4 officers responsible for conducting the compliance checks, and they all attend the Washington County Public Health and Environment Training for officers. So again, we're consistent with all of the other departments in the Sheriff's Department. Here's our compliance process. Again, requirements, we've started, we want the decoys to have an interest in law enforcement. Often we'll use a reserve officer that's underage or a community service officer. Actually, in the incident at Walmart, our decoy was a community service officer in another agency. So we don't want the ones doing it they think it's an episodes of cops, because it's not. It's a good way for them to build their resume and say, as I move on in my career in law enforcement, I've helped out the department. So they have to be at least 18 years of age, but under the age of 21, and they must have a valid Minnesota State issued identification card or driver's license. And it is a volunteer, but our public safety board does give them a gift card, just because we do appreciate it. It's a challenge to find people to do these compliance checks. So here's just kind of going through what they're told, and I know the memo was very detailed with everything that Sergeant McCormick gave me, but it's a predetermined date and time, normal day for them. They're told to wear what they would normally wear. We don't change their appearance in any way. We don't want any of our decoys to look like they would think, well, maybe they are 30 or, a full beard. We don't do that. We're not trying to trick people. We want them to just be, yep, that person's a 19-year-old or that person's a 20-year-old. There should be no question there. So we also take a picture of them beforehand. So we have that for when we do go to court. If they say, oh, this person looked like, we have a picture of what they're wearing, what they look like, and everything. So their volunteers are instructed that if asked, they are to state their real age. They're instructed that under no circumstances are they authorized to lie to an employee about who they are. And volunteers are instructed to provide their Minnesota State issued ID. I think ours even go a bit further and talk about the integrity, and you want to be a police officer, you don't lie. So I guess I haven't had that happen, and the integrity is a very big piece of this. I put this in here just to kind of show you the Minnesota driver's license right now, and this is getting phased out, but it's very obvious right above the picture. This person here I don't think is under 21, but give her the benefit of the doubt. But that's what a typical Minnesota, that's what the driver's license looks like. And we've had some over the years where they've said, well, I have my thumb on the under 21, but that's just part of the training. We tell the people, hold it, turn it, look at it. And so in this next thing, this is a good thing. All of the under 21s are going to this portrait, and we're starting to see these transitions out. And I'm sorry, Ed, there it is. It is used in 46 other states, so I think this will make it easier for anyone that's IDing that it's opposite from what someone over 21 is. So continue. The ID is reviewed. We photograph prior to the officers conducting the compliance checks, and we do keep a copy of what their driver's license looks like. I do have one later, the one on the presentation, and in front of you, I also gave you a copy unredacted, but we can't share that out in the public. So, provided with the monetary note, and we also photograph and we keep a copy of that too. Officers leave the police department unmarked police vehicles. They visit all the establishments that have licenses. And we also complete an additional form for every establishment that's visited with the day, time, who went in, and descriptions of the employers. And that's all sent to Washington County, and they track everything for us. So they're told to enter the establishment by themselves and try to purchase alcohol. We don't advise them on a specific product to purchase due to the variety of products at different establishments. However, honestly, a lot of these kids that go in, they're like, what do I ask for? They have no idea what, so we just kind of say, well, most of the 21, you're probably buying this. So, which is kind of a cool problem to have that they, at least, but volunteers are instructed if the alcohol sale at the restaurant to send a message via cell phone. Otherwise, if it's a store, then they'll come outside and they'll get the compliance check officers. So when the sale's made, they're instructed to get a receipt for the sale too. If a sale occurs, officers go into the establishment with the volunteer and ask them who sold the alcohol and additional details. The officers they're doing an independent investigation on this. Once a volunteer identifies the person, that's kind of when the Cottage Grove Police, the compliance check officers take over. They ask all the standard questions. If they sold the alcohol to the volunteer, we always will ask for the manager, the owner too, someone in charge. The employees ask what happened and why they sold. And obviously the big thing is I was really busy, I was confused, things like that. And, or some are just like, I messed up. So they were always asked too, did you ask for an age or identification? And then the employee is notified that they'll be receiving a violation via citation. So, and it is for a misdemeanor. I know a lot of you are aware that in the state it is a gross misdemeanor, but I have this here that it can be a gross misdemeanor charge under Minnesota statute. We issue a citation for the misdemeanor violation under our city code. This is due to, we've always looked at not a punitive, we're not looking to just hammer this employee. We want compliance, but we also want to educate. This isn't not a new direction. This is what the compliance check, we've been doing this for 20-some years where we've done it with the city owners. We're very consistent with what we've been doing. Continue, we get the monetary note, get the change, and then officers always ask if there's any questions for them from the employee or management prior to exiting. And this is kind of, if there's any issue at all with what the volunteer did at the time of the transaction, this is the time where it should be brought up to the officers. They always ask, and if there is confusion, they'll clear the air there. So I'll move on to Walmart, the violation of facts. In your packet, I did include the police report. And then you have the image of the driver's license that was provided. And then just kind of a summary I'll go over. So on November 22nd, 2019, the underage decoy went into the liquor store at Walmart at 9300 East Point Douglas Road. The compliance officer parked in a position to be able to view the attempted purchase. The volunteer selected a 6-pack of Bud Light and put it on the counter. The cashier rang up the purchase and asked the decoy for her identification. The decoy was 20 years of age at the time with a birth date in mid-December. The decoy provided her Minnesota DL, which showed she was under 21. The cashier checked the Minnesota DL, handed it back to the decoy, and completed the sale. It appeared that from what the officer said, that the cashier did scan the Minnesota DL as well. The decoy then went out and turned over the alcohol to the officers. The cashier admitted to the officers that she sold the decoy the alcohol. Just put in a picture, so there's a receipt that she had purchased the 6-pack of Bud Light. During the last meeting, there were concerns brought forward regarding a possible bubble on the identification. And the person from Walmart that talked about it, that was more secondhand. It wasn't the cashier that was here to talk about that. And I guess the conversation that there was some confusion about was a birth date given, honesty, things like that. So I did have Sergeant McCormick also follow up with that decoy, and that follow-up is also included in the police reports that will go to our prosecuting attorney as well. But according to our decoy, she said the cashier seemed confused and scanned her Minnesota DL with an age verification system. And she did ask if she was born in 1998, to which she answered yes. Our decoy was born in 1998. She was 20. 3-4 weeks later, she'd be turning 21. So here I did, this is the photograph, and I gave you hopefully a little better resolution, so we redacted most of this. But as you can see from this driver's license, there's absolutely, it's in good condition. There was no bubble. There would be nothing that, as a police officer, that I ever look at this and question the integrity of this driver's license. And in my 28 years, I've looked at a lot of them. Now they're a little bit further out, but it's a standard driver's license, so I don't see anything like that. So I feel very comfortable with the way the procedure was handled. They followed procedure exactly how our compliance checks are supposed to. They followed our standard operating guidelines. And again, I think she just got confused. So with that, that's my presentation. I'd it's allow the business representative for Walmart an opportunity to respond to the City Council regarding a liquor compliance check violation occurring on the 22nd of 2019.
Okay. Any questions for Pete at this point? I think you've thoroughly went through it. Do you want to head on up there? And again, I know I recognize you, but do you want to state your name and address for the record again?
Good evening, Council, Mayor. My name is Bonnie Sansfield. I live in South St. Paul, Minnesota, and I am here representing Walmart.
Okay. So you did hear the further details to make sure, one of the things when you brought that up to us at the last meeting, that obviously concerns us because we feel the integrity of the program, our officers and such is of the highest regard, that we wanted to make sure there wasn't any mistakes or anything that was being made. And though I know Pete did share a kind of a redacted version of the driver's license, I know one of the concerns you had mentioned, I think you said you heard from the previous employee.
Yeah, she stated there was a bubble on the ID, which clearly there was no bubble.
Yeah,
and
you get a chance to see it? So you did?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I just want to make sure that you did see it because we're seeing it up here and there isn't Actually, it looks like a better condition ID than mine does. So the point of the matter is it looks like this individual at your establishment made a mistake.
Yes.
Okay. So I guess at this point, unless you have anything else you want to share, this is your chance to either admit or deny that there was a underage purchase at your establishment there at Walmart. And so I wanted to ask you, do you have something you want to share?
No, we can just admit fault at this point and plead guilty to it as before. Like I stated before, I was not there that night, so all I had was the story I got the next day. She was one of my associates. She was one of my better associates. So when I heard the story, I'm like, well, that's unfortunate. But even so, she would have still accepted a fake ID. We're 100% committed to pairing with the police department. So he has the report. They were there. I trust every single officer that's in and out of our store, and they're a huge contribution to us as well. So we're fully taking fault in the matter.
Okay. All right. Council, any questions for her at this point representing Walmart? All right, so Council, you do see before you, which is in essence the same as before, is they are admitting that they did sell alcohol to a minor. The decision before us, now I need my cheaters on, thank you, Pete, is to adopt Resolution 2020-013 imposing the scheduled penalty for the first violation in a 24-month period of a $500 fine and in lieu of a one-day suspension, participation of employees in an education program approved by the Public Safety Director.
The only thing I have to ask about that is with us having as many cashiers as we do, I don't believe that the training would work out because there's no way possible for us to have every single cashier trained associate. at a training. We do have extensive training that we do in the store, and they are required to do it yearly. So is that something that you guys would accept as training, or?
Well, let me ask you a question. What I would ask is, what we're going to do is, obviously the council has to make the motion in that. The council would direct you to have the conversation with our director of public safety to see what works. My question, though, I guess for you is, I know you have cashiers on the inside of Walmart. This is kind of a separate piece of Walmart. So do the cashiers that work on the cashier lines in Walmart also work in the liquor store?
Yes, so any cashiers that we have that are over the age of 18, because we have not that many of them, they are usually utilized in the liquor store. So anyone that is of that age usually helps out in the liquor store. And that doesn't just include cashiers, that's also some of our sales floor associates are cross-trained, and they also go through the same training. So it would include a lot of people.
Okay, so what I would, council has to make the motion in the second, but what I would recommend is that you would work with our director of public safety to make sure that whatever processes that have been put into place, and you've been in our community for a while, and there hasn't been any other issues as we know, so this sounds like it's an unfortunate, hopefully a one-time issue. We don't have to deal with it anymore. It sounds also like you do have a system, maybe for some reason got overridden or whatever, but you have a system where you scan the ID, correct?
Not in the liquor store, to my knowledge. What happens is when they scan the product, our register is automatically prompt for alcohol and tobacco. It says, does the customer appear under the age of 40? And then if you select yes, it makes you enter a date of birth, and it will not bypass that. It will cancel the sale if you hit clear or try to bypass it at all. If you hit no, then it clears the system, and they're only supposed to hit no if the person is clearly over the age of 40.
Okay, all right. Sounds good. All right, Council, what would you like to do?
May I ask a question?
Yes, Councilmember Mills.
Were you asking for a one-day suspension instead of the education? Is that what you were requesting? Okay.
Okay.
So Mayor, I'll make the motion to adopt Resolution 2020-013, imposing the scheduled penalty for the first violation in a 24-month period of a $500 fine and a one-day suspension.
All right, so I have a motion by Councilmember Mills. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Councilmember Thiede. Any further discussion? Yes, Councilmember Dennis.
Just a minor detail. We would let public safety assign that day.
Oh, yes. Yes.
Yep.
Yeah, I'll add that to the motion.
Okay, and are you okay with that as a second? Okay, so that will be in there. So you'll work with our Director of Public Safety on selecting the date for the no sales.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. All right, any further discussion? Good catch, by the way. All right, seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. All right, next we're moving on to 12, which is council comments request. I'll do my normal and start with Councilmember Mills.
Thank you, Mayor. I was just going to highlight something here on our upcoming events. There are a couple skate times coming up, and with our new rink and the new ice, it would be a great opportunity for the public to get out and join and do some skating. So there is skating on February 17th on President's Day at 9 a.m., or you can come out for cosmic skating on February 19th at 6 p.m. So a great way to kind of check it out if you haven't been out there.
Yeah, I'm interested to see what that cosmic skating is all about, because I think they got new lights and stuff in there too. So
is that right, Zach? Yep.
Yeah,
Okay.
see, that's what I heard.
Very cool.
I even saw the colors on the board out front, so it looks kind of cool.
And that's all I have. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Yes, Councilmember Dennis.
All right, thank you, Mayor. A couple things for us. The first, and I'm a little bit early on this, April 1st of this year is United States Census Day. And this is observed nationwide. By this date, every home will receive an invitation to participate in the 2020 census. Once the invitation arrives, you're asked to respond to that in one of three ways, either online, by phone, or by mail. If people have not responded, what will end up happening is census takers will appear in the communities and start visiting homes and other places where people reside between May and July. So a couple reasons that this is really important, and we want to stress that importance to the community of being counted, is that this is our opportunity to gain a return of federal tax dollars back to the state. When you take a look at what that math means and you divide it down by the population base of Minnesota, we stand to lose about $2,796 per individual. So this is a really important thing for us to get a requisite return back on those taxes that we all pay in. And then second to that, one of the things that we have been working on with our economic development program is to build our population base. And you know where I'm going with this. So as we measure up to the expectations or requirements of investors that would come here to bring all the kinds of businesses that people have been asking for, we want to make sure that every single person is accounted for so that we have those measurements to stand up to those requirements. So it's really important, and I'm sure we'll talk a little bit more about that as we get closer. And then the last thing that I just wanted to say is I wanted to compliment your work on the state of the city. And isn't it amazing, folks, all the incredible things that are happening here in Cottage Grove. So a lot of people putting in a lot of work, and the results are fantastic. So
Yes, they are.
That's what I have.
All right, thank you. You're good? All right. Councilmember Thiede?
Actually, I'm good too.
Okay. All right, so I have a couple items real quick. One is they handed me a bunch of these up front, but I did want to just point this out for the public out there, maybe on TV, that this is the 2019 annual report, which did arrive at all the homes in Cottage Grove, I believe in the last few days. And so I just encourage you, if you're interested to know kind of what's going on. I mean, I just did the state of the city, but the fact is there's more information in here also that kind of talks about the past year and the different things and actions and such that we've done within our community. So please take a look at that. And if there's any questions, absolutely reach out to one of myself or one of our council members to mention or to answer any questions. I also wanted to just mention that we had the distinct honor, and I know unfortunately Councilmember Thiede was not able to be there, but last week we were honored to recognize our city administrator, now city administrator, to receive a very prestigious award with the state of Minnesota as being the Engineer of the Year. And so I just wanted to publicly recognize that fact. She got a nice plaque. She got to see all the people out there. It was kind of cool how they did it, by the way. They kept saying if you've done this or you haven't done this, you had to sit down, and pretty soon in the room, the only person standing was Jennifer. So Jennifer Levitt, our current now city administrator, was our engineer prior, but she still has that background. I just wanted to say congratulations for myself, and I know Dave and everybody else up here. We're very proud of you, and we're glad that you're part of our team.
You know, you can take away the title, but you can never take the engineer out of the engineer.
Yeah, that's true. That is true. And then interesting, my only other comment I was going to mention real quick, and that it kind of piggybacks a little bit on what Lorraine was just talking about with the ice arena. This coming Saturday at our ice arena next to Park, the high school boys are going to be playing Woodbury at our ice arena. And it is a us versus them kind of game that evening. And plus, I believe that's the night they're doing the jersey. Is that correct, Zach? I'm looking for him. So what they do is they raise funds for a charitable cause, and the people in Woodbury obviously are providing money to them to raise to beat the coach for Park. So it's the coach against Woodbury against the coach against Park. And they will say before the game starts who raised more money. And if the Park person raised more money than the Woodbury team or the Woodbury coach, that Woodbury coach has to wear the Park jersey during the game. So it's kind of one of those things. I've seen it's been going on for quite a few years, and I know they've raised tens of thousands of dollars actually in this program. But other than that piece of it, I wanted to mention it because one, you get a chance then to come up and check out the new ice arena and see all the great work and the processes in there. And two, this game is actually going to be televised live on our local cable access for the first time. So other than coming up there and filling up the stands and cheering for your Park High team, and I know we got Cottage Grove people there for Eastridge, but we're all for Park right now, other than Woodbury. The fact of the matter is I encourage everybody to have if you got some time on Saturday night, stop up to the ice arena, cheer on your Park High Wolfpack to victory. support the team, and then you get to also see what's all these amenities. We've been talking about how great that arena is right now, and that what everybody's raving about. So join me that night. It should be a fun time, and if you can't, obviously flip over to channel 16 or 18 and watch it on TV live, and you can yell at the TV if you'd like. Okay? All right. Anything else, Council? All right. Next on our agenda, 13, which is workshop open to the public. We don't have anything. 14 is a workshop closed to the public, which we don't this evening. So we're down to 15, which is looking for a motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
We have a motion by Councilmember Thede.
Second.
Second by Councilmember Mills. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? We are adjourned.